saying that goes, you can't trust a promise someone makes while they're drunk, in love, hungry, or running for office. It's something to keep in mind as GE14 looms, because it is during this time that promises from politicians grow into overdrive. The thing is, most of the time the promises are pretty standard. Better economy, a more efficient government, lighten the people's burden, yada yada along those lines. But every once in a while, you do get promises that seem kind of unnecessary. You know, like how Unify insists on giving you landline with your broadband. And this week, the grand prize winner was BN Information Chief Datuk Satim Diman. He went kind of viral on social media when he said that if it were to win the state back, he would promise free plastic bags for all, and even mention a factory of some kind. This statement is actually so amazing when you think about it. He is talking about something that's really grassroots, the really nitty-gritty stuff that affects daily life, issues that often get ignored for the bigger economic picture, which is good. More of that needs to be done. Yet, he completely misses the point. Because we all know the ban wasn't to punish people, rather to cut down on our overuse of plastic. Maybe someone needs to send Mr. Diman a picture of this really sad seal. The thing is, he isn't the first or last politician to make really odd political promises. In the US, apparently, it is very, very common to promise to lock up your opponents. Lord Buckethead, who I know is a satirical candidate before all of you jump on me in the comments, advocates blasting your kid into outer space if they misbehave. Yet the question that should be asked is, of all these promises, whether once the banners have been packed away, are they actually kept? I know if I were to go out and ask any 10 random people on the street right now, the answer would probably be no. Because human beings are more likely to believe what is in front of them, and real change takes time. It's a marathon, not a sprint after all. The truth is, studies have shown that when politicians make promises on the campaign trail, they do keep their word roughly about 2/3 of the time, which isn't a bad average, all things considered. Okay, so we know how it works in the world, but what about here? In this instance, it is useful to pick apart how both sides have done, in some degree, of keeping the political promises. Starting with our current PM. Looking at his report card, he has kept the bigger picture aspect of his promises, proven by better economic numbers and low unemployment. He has also kept his word on some of the much smaller stuff, such as the promise to reduce car prices by 20 to 30% by 2018. According to data from the Malaysia Automotive Institute, car prices have been dropping since 2013. So yes, janji ditepati. But what about some of the other promises? Well, here is where it is not so clear-cut. One in particular that actually stood out is to ensure other religions can be practiced in peace and harmony, and to that extent, cultures as well. While at a glance, we as different races do live in relative harmony to each other, but there have been blips, let's say. The recent uproar over representing the Year of the Dog, from this recent ad to the anger over Petronas's Ang Pao packets, does point to not all being good in Boleland. I am not saying that you shouldn't be offended. You can be offended. But the level of anger, the level of vitriol, does seem to be very symptomatic of a much, much deeper issue. So in this case, janji ditepati? On the other side, Penang CM Lim Guan Eng has spoken about how the state's revenue had tripled between 2007 and 2014, and how the state holds its own in semicon manufacturing. However, as for promises he hasn't kept, the abolition of the Sungai Nior toll still hasn't happened, despite it being one of the key election promises a few years ago. And yes, he can't run away from Penang's undersea link debacle. But maybe it is important to take into full context why sometimes political promises aren't kept. Put aside the promises that are just pure political gambits. In some cases, politicians do want to keep their promises, but either there is opposition that makes it impossible, or circumstances change. Again, a marathon, not a sprint. One of the best examples of this in the world is actually Dear Donald's border wall, a key campaign promise that he promised would be up during his first year of presidency. Spoiler alert, it has not. Apparently progress has been made, but Mexico has openly said that it would not pay for the stupid thing, despite what he had said earlier. And now he's trying to get America to pay for it, but the Democrats also said they wouldn't pay for the stupid thing. So the key takeaway from all of this is that we as the people need to actually hold politicians to their promises and make an effort to really go through their manifestos line by line. I know it's easier said than done, but this is what needs to be done. Be vocal when there is something that does not seem quite right. I feel this is a point that we all keep keep bringing up. But it really can't be stressed enough to be aware of who represents you. Not only when there is an election, and certainly not only to rant on Facebook. And certainly don't give them an easy pass when they don't fulfill their promise. Remind them at every turn. Post it to their social media. Print out their manifestos and laminate it. Tattoo it on their ass. And when they don't fulfill their promises, that is the thought you must carry into the polling booth with you. Persistence. Because that is really the only way to finish a marathon. Unless, of course, you purposely choose not to vote in, which means that you have no right to say anything, really. Just say it.